For this lesson plan and teaching activity, I'm going to talk about using a discipline frame. The class that is going to be using this is an 8th grade social studies and English language arts class. The students receive social studies and English language arts instruction from the same teacher through an integrated curriculum. The class is taught thematically with a specific focus for each unit. Units are anywhere from 1 to 6 weeks long. The class is a mixed ability class of 25 students. Thematic teaching. Themes are used to increase the complexity of content within an area of study. When used within a specific discipline, the use of a theme allows students to examine the interrelationship between and among facts, details, rules, and concepts. When used across disciplines, a theme allows students to study the interrelatedness of areas of studies. The theme for the colonization unit is power. Students will already understand what power is and the following generalizations of power. The focus of this unit for social studies is the many forms of colonization resulted in an abuse of power, thus challenging the political status quo. While the language arts focus is historical fiction shows the uses and abuses of power in specific time periods of history and the challenges in taking action. The student objectives for this lesson is we will identify and discuss the techniques used in persuasive writing and speaking. Number 2, we will research the political, economic, and social reasons for colonization. Number 3, I will complete the thinking like a marketer discipline frame with my group. This lesson contains the following curriculum standards: Social Studies 8.2, Social Studies 8.29, Language Arts 8.25, and Language Arts 8.11. The following chart describes the differentiation used in this class: the thinking skills, the depth and complexity, the research skills, and the products that the students will create for this lesson. The resources for this lesson include 4 resources for students: a handout on the techniques of propaganda, the discipline frame. They will also need internet access for research, as well as their textbooks. The resources for the teacher include the techniques of propaganda and a video, Destination Earth, which may be found at the following YouTube link. The teacher narrative. The teacher will use the teacher resource propaganda techniques to teach methods used for propaganda. The teacher may use various print or electronic media as examples to discuss and analyze the power propaganda has to influence the public. Have students watch Destination Earth, and as they are watching, students will identify the propaganda techniques used. After watching the video and discussing the propaganda techniques that were found, the students will get into groups of 3 or 4 to use the language of the discipline of an advertiser to create a marketing campaign enticing investors to invest in a business venture in one of the 13 British colonies. The teacher will use the resource Think Like a Marketer. Students will incorporate the techniques of propaganda and persuasion to sell their business venture. Student groups will present their campaigns to the class. This is an example of a discipline frame. Each frame is set up into 4 sections. The language of the discipline section includes for the student specific language used in that discipline. The student's objective here is to look up the words and incorporate them in their final product. Most of the words that are in this section should be included in their final products. The right section is the methods of the discipline. Here the teacher creates an explanation of how the person in the discipline does their job. At the bottom is the applying the discipline to history. This section describes the history of the discipline as well as one or maybe two pioneers in the field, so that way the students can get a sense of somebody important and its historical context. Finally, on the left side, in the skills of the discipline, students will find the steps they must take in fulfilling their final product. They will use the three sections in order to get this done. For this particular lesson, this is what the discipline frame would look like. Under language of the discipline, they have a handful of words that they need to understand in order to complete the skills. Under methods, it talks about what marketing is. It gives a definition and discusses what a marketer does and what a marketing plan is. Finally, on the bottom, in the third section on the bottom, it gives an example of how marketing is applied to history. It gives a specific person. In this case, it's Walt Disney, because this is somebody that the students would most likely be able to relate with. Finally, in the skills of the discipline, in their groups, they'll have to create a marketing plan for one of the 13 colonies. They have a set of assignments that they must complete and include in a final presentation. Here's a rubric for the final product. Each one of the check marks in the previous slide has a column in the rubric. This makes it very easy for the teacher to assess the students and what they have learned and researched. The last two slides is just a handout of the different propaganda techniques. This is what the students would have used to identify the propaganda techniques used in the video Destination Earth.